ITV News at 6 with me, Harry Bland. Headlines tonight: Toby Jones hands in his homework. But our main headlines are: we have Professor Tom Nash coming to discuss the rise of CO2 levels in the atmosphere. Professor Tom Nash.
Hello there, Harry.
Nice to meet you, good sir.
Thank you. You too. Right, what do you want to ask me this fine evening?
So basically, tell us how the rise in CO2 levels is going to affect us, basically.
Right, well, it's going to cause a general increase in the temperature of the Earth, the average temperature of the Earth. It won't make Britain hotter because that's impossible. It's too cold. But it will generally increase the concentration of greenhouse gases which insulate the Earth like a warm blanket.
I see.
And then any heat moving into the Earth's atmosphere will be more insulated and won't be able to reflect back out into space. Be insulated by this greenhouse layer, which is made up of methane and carbon dioxide, generally pollutants.
I see. So have we got like any statistics to enforce this?
Well, if you look at this graph, you can clearly see that over the past 50 years, CO2 emissions and man-made emissions, that is, and global average temperature have both been rising rapidly.
I see. So, Professor Tom Nash, where is all this extra carbon dioxide coming from?
Well, mainly from fossil fuels. I'll start with the carbon cycle. The carbon cycle describes how carbon atoms, molecules, move through our natural environment. So, say we start with carbon in the air around us. That is generally brought into plants by photosynthesis. And it generally gets there as animals and plants respire, or we burn fossil fuels or trees, burning trees. Then when organisms die and decay, their carbon is released to saprobiotic organisms or detritivores that will release it back into the air by respiring. But say, what happens if we die where there are no detritivores or under pressure? Then generally the carbon gets squashed and moulded into fossil fuels, which can then be burnt, as we do today for our electricity, like how we are filming this, and that releases more CO2 into the environment, and it results in a lot of CO2 pollution and greater greenhouse gas layer in the atmosphere.
I see. Thanks, Professor Tom Nash. We're just going for a short commercial.
Automatic freshness, softness, and static control has never been easier with the Bounce dryer bar. I just stick it to the inside of my dryer and I never have to remember.
Old Spice body spray makes you smell like power! It's so powerful it sells itself in other people's commercials. You smell like outdoor freshness.
You smell like power.
Yeah, I do. Power!
Welcome back. So, with this increase of CO2 contributing to global warming, how is this going to affect crop yield, Professor Tom Nash?
Generally, the trend we have been seeing is an increase in crop growth, generally, for a few years, and then a decline. This may be due to the change in seasons and how we will, keep our summers will stay warmer for longer after the seasons generally have ended.
I see, but okay, let's go to animals now, like polar bears for example. How will these be affected?
Well, generally Arctic species of animals, their habitat has been being destroyed by these increased temperatures, as the average temperature of the ice caps is going up dramatically, causing the ice caps to melt rather rapidly, glaciers falling apart from the main ice structure, and general disaster. However, other animal species have thrived, but in other cases, in the rainforest environment, certain plants and animals are approaching the edge of their thermal threshold, where if it gets any hotter they will simply die and the species will become extinct.
So, Professor Tom Nash, our viewers have been posting on Twitter. How would this increase of CO2 affect the insect's life cycle?
Generally, this is going to put different selection pressures upon the insects, and it may cause some of them to go past their thermal threshold, like I said earlier, causing extinction of a species. But generally, when their parents lay their eggs, the larvae that go into a pupa form, generally the later they go into that form, the greater an advantage they have against their siblings when they hatch. So with the longer summers, this is generally going to favour them a lot more than it did before, causing different natural selection and eventually different evolution and mutation.
I see. Well, that's all we got time for. Thank you for joining us for ITV News at 6. Good night.